look, I want to keep this one short. I want to keep this one to the point. But I do want to surface some things in this episode that I think are really important when it comes to conversations around masculinities, and specifically when we're talking about masculinities in schools. Because what I'm hearing more and more recently in my work is that, it's just, we don't want to be too political, when it comes to conversations around masculinity. We don't want to be too political in terms of how we're framing it. We don't want to create this impression that we're approaching it from this politicized lens. And I do understand it. This is not me shaming, blaming, or judging this frame. I do understand from the position of being educators and also working within the contexts that most of you work within, that needs to be something you need to be incredibly attuned to. One of the things for me, as someone who works in the educational sphere, but not as a, full-time educator that works and visits and delivers in a range of different spaces across the education sphere, this idea for me of approaching or not wanting to approach conversations around masculinity in a way that seems too political or politicized is something that, for me, bypasses a route of a lot of these framings that we're interacting with, that we're in proximity to, and that we're engaging with in the context of our schools. I think for me, we've got to really name the elephant in the conversation, or call the spade, for lack of a better term. Because for me, ideas of masculinity that we're seeing, or specifically, let's be real specific right now, the ideas, the presentations, the belief systems of masculinity that we're seeing, that we're concerned about, that we're looking at and going, okay, we need to kind of keep an eye on this and curiously explore this and examine this, or we're seeing this specific presentation emerging more and more in the context of our schools, the things that we are raising as things that we want to explore, they are coming from political lenses. They are coming from political foundations, they're coming from political perspectives. Masculinity as an embodiment, as an expression, as a form of communication is politicized. Gender and gendered experience is politicized. It is a political uh, area that we're discussing right now, that we're exploring, that we're examining. And when we're speaking specifically, can I get my words out today? I don't think I can, but we're going to keep it in. When we're speaking specifically to conversations around manosphere leaning, red pill leaning, the rise of, in some spaces and places, hyper right wing ideals and ideals. When we're seeing these ideas expressed and communicated, they are rooted in politics. They are rooted in political leanings. And we have to name that. Because for me, not wanting to be too political is not addressing, in some instances, the root causes or the roots in for ideas of masculinity that are being expressed and communicated in the spaces. It's not about coming in with a specific, framing of, hey, this session is rooted in this specific political stance. And if you don't like that, get out. But to not name politics and political leanings in this conversation, in this intervention work, in this wider lens approach, for me, is missing a lot of the sort of foundations and a lot of the ways in which these ideas have not only been normalized, but encouraged and rewarded. When we're speaking about masculinity, we're speaking to something that is political, that has been and always has been across time and space politicized. So not wanting to be too political, and odd, and if we can say that we don't want to come across this way, that pausing and not naming and not exploring and examining and curiously asking, so where are these ideas coming from for you? Is it this specific influencer? Is it this specific politician? What do you think about these particular people in these spaces? And what do they give you in terms of your ideas and your perspectives? And what do you find inspiring, motivating, X, Y, Z about these people that you're naming in this space? That's not too political. That's engaging in the conversation that needs to be had. Because what we cannot contextualize, we cannot address. And what we don't address, we compound. So this conversation that we need to have in this space, in this specific intersection of the construction, embodiment, and presentation of masculinities, needs to bring politics in. Not from a position of, I must persuade you to engage in my worldview, but naming the elephant in the conversation. Being very clear that, these ideas that you're bringing into this space and you're expressing, we've seen them in this space, in this context. Is that where you're getting from? Help me to understand where you're coming from. That's not, it's not disrespectful. That's not shame-inducing. That's curious, though. that's curiously exploring and making room to curiously explore the potential politicality of those ideas and expressions in the context of your school space. So I wanted to bring that in because for me, this is massively important. What we do not contextualize or attempt to contextualize, we don't address. And what we don't address, we continue to compound. So I want to leave that one there. Short, sweet, hopefully succinct, but something I think we really do need to bring into those conversations that we're having in and around masculinities in schools at this point in time. I'd love to know some of your thoughts, some of your reflections, maybe some of your experiences in this space, because I know for me, that maybe this is another episode or something like this, but I'm seeing a lot of these specific frames and expressions becoming more and more normalized, encouraged, and rewarded in the context of peer groups in schools, which I think is going to be another episode that I want to really sort of delve into because, you know, there's lots to unpack there and explore. But for me right now, I just wanted to plant that seed. I just wanted to really name something that I'm seeing a lot of and what I think in relation to what I'm observing and exploring. And as always, take this podcast, wherever you're engaging with it, wherever you're interacting and experiencing it, take it as a perspective, not the perspective. For me, I'm really intentional with this. You know, I recognize and I know other people in spaces that do work similar to me, that do things differently, and they have wonderful ways of engaging and interacting and exploring these topics that I'm bringing into the space. This is my perspective, not the perspective, and I hope that there's some things in this episode that you found useful or something that you can go away and reflect on further in relation to wherever this episode hits you. But thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the week. Stay well, stay blessed, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.